Okay, Shalom Aleichem, welcome everyone. As we're on the seventh day of Hanukkah, and we're in Masechet Sanhedrin, and where are we holding? Spot. We are holding on Da Lamed Chet Amud Aleph, 3881 in the Art Scroll. Omar Rav Chizda, Omar Mar Ukva. The Omrele Omar Rav Chizda Darsh Mari Bar Mar. So either Rav Chizda said the name of Mar Ukva, or Rav Chizda said that Mari Bar Mar said this. What does it mean that it says in Pasuk? This pasuk is in Daniel. Vayishkod Hashem al hara, v'aviyah aleinu ki tzadik Hashem Elokeinu. And Hashem brought evil upon us very quickly, and that's why Hashem is called a tzaddik. Mara says, "What? Mishum the tzaddik Hashem, because Hashem is considered a tzaddik. Vayishkod Hashem al hara, v'aviyah aleinu. That's why Hashem brought the bad stuff upon us very fast." Mara says, "Ain, yes, that's exactly it. Tzedakah asa kadosh baruch hu im Israel. Hashem made a tzedakah." We're on Daf Lamed Ches Amud Aleph, 38:1. It says in Pasuk, "Vayishkod Hashem al hara v'aviyah aleinu ki tzadik Hashem Elokeinu." Hashem is considered a tzaddik because he brought evil upon us very quickly. The Gemara says, really? That's why he's considered a tzaddik, because he brought evil upon us? The Gemara says, Ain, yes. Hashem made tzedakah with the Jewish people when he brought them punishment early. What was the punishment he brought early? Shehikdim galut tzidkiyahu va'od galut yochanya kayemet. Hashem brought the galut of Tzidkiyahu, while the galut of Yechonia was still fresh. Okay, so the first temple is being destroyed, and the Jews are getting exiled to Babel. It didn't happen all in one shot. It happened in a few waves. One of the earliest waves of exile was that of King Yechonia. Right, we learned a little about him last week. He was in a dungeon. His wife was with him when he was in the dungeon. So he's in exile, and when he was exiled with a lot of other people. We're going to see in a minute. But 11 years later, Tzidkiyahu would then be exiled with his people at his time, and a lot more Jews at that time ended up going to Babel. So how is this a tzedakah that Hashem made it 11 years later? If I remember correctly, it's 11 years. When it says by King Yechonia, when he was exiled, it says who went into exile with King Yechonia? It says Hacherash v'Hamasker Elef. The Cherash and the Masker, 1,000 of them. Now, Cherash is usually translated as a craftsman, someone who makes stuff. And a Masker means gatekeeper. So it seems to be some important officials in the government. But the Gemara is going to explain a little differently. Mari Bar Mar says, what does this mean? Charash kivan shepotchin hakol na'asuk harshin. These were Talmidei Chachamim. They were so haresh, so craftsmen, that they made everybody a cherish, a deaf mute. When they spoke in Torah, no one could even answer back. They were so deep, so much Torah that they would share, that there would be no way for anyone to answer back. Kivan shesogrin b'halacha, masger. Why were they called the masger, the closers? Kivan shesogrin b'halacha shuv ein potchin. Once they opened the halacha, they closed it, and there was no reason to open it again. Meaning, when they dealt with the halachic issue, they dealt with it from start to finish, and everything in between, and everything made sense, and it was very clear. Now, v'chamahu and v'chamahayu. And how many of them were there? Elif. There were 1,000 of them. So now, when these scholars, they were there in Babel, when a few years later, when Tzidkiyahu Tzidkiyahu and his people are exiled, they come down to Babel, and they find that already there's an established Torah community there. They're Chachamim, they're Rabbanim, they're Shaykhtim, there are mohels, there's everything that you need. I'm sure there was a sushi shop and a pizza shop and whatnot. Everything that you needed for a Jewish community was already established by these Cherish and Maskers during the exile of Yechonia. So it was a tzedakah that Hashem made the exile of Tzidkiyahu so close to the exile of Yechonia. This way, the people were still alive, and they were able to. The Talmid Chacham were still there, and they could able to teach Torah to the new exiles that came to Bavel. I just want to, take a note to look for a minute, analyze it on our own. So in note 21, it does say 11 years later, all the remaining Jews were exiled with Tzidkiyahu. So this explained why Rebbe Mar was an act of charity by hastening the later exile. 11 years after the first, Hashem brought the uneducated Jews to Babel during the lifetimes of the Torah scholars already there. The scholars and educated these people, thereby preserving a Torah knowledge for posterity. Okay, but what I want to also mention is interesting that Nebuchadnezzar's first exile was the king and the Talmidei Chacham. Okay, king and the Talmidei Chacham. Why would he choose to exile the Talmidei Chachamim first? So this is something I think we can answer based on what happened during World War II. There is a famous letter the Nazis put out, and they put out a letter to all the other commanding officers of who to exterminate first, who to kill first. And they said amongst the Jews, the first ones you should be killing were the ones who learned the Talmud. And they said the reason would be is because if there are no more Talmud learners, there will be no more Judaism. So in a sense, you can think the Nebuchadnezzar is the same thing. Nebuchadnezzar said we don't want any more Judaism in Israel. So instead of killing all the Jews or exiling all the Jews at first, maybe they weren't ready to do that yet. They said we just get rid of the Talmidei Chachamim. You get rid of the Talmidei Chachamim, and Judaism will fall apart. There's no one to lead it. Okay, so that's one understanding of how Hashem. You have a question?
Yes. Hi. How are you?
Yeah.
So the idea of the exile, it showed that it is in a way of mercy, right?
Yeah.
So the second exile came so close, shows it gave them an opportunity to see, right? The Chachamim. How about the first exile, though?
What happened?
It gave the opportunity to see the Chachamim, correct?
Right.
How about the first exile that happened? What was merciful in that aspect? You know what I mean? The first one.
So we're saying that Hashem did something quickly, and that led him to doing tzedakah, doing charity to us. So the second exile happening quickly was the charity point. Now the first exile happening first, not necessarily that it was a tzedakah, but like I said, you can explain the Nebuchadnezzar's rationale was to get rid of the Talmidei Chachamim. This way, Judaism will fall apart. So there will be no real leaders for them.
Thank you.
That's what happened. Yeah. Okay. Ula's going to give another explanation of Hashem doing something quickly that really helps out. There's a pasuk that we read. We read this in Parshas of Et Hanan, right, on Shabbat after Tisha B'Av. We also read this on Tisha B'Av. This is the Kriya of Tisha B'Av morning. And what we read in there, and you can see in Torah or Hashalom on the side, and hey, ki talid banu b'nei banim, you have children and many children, and ushantem ba'aretz, and you'll be in the land for a very long time. V'hishchatem, v'asitem pesel, you can make it with the zara. Ko tunat ko, v'asitem hara b'nei Hashem l'kecha la'achi so. You can make Hashem very upset to make him angry. And it doesn't bring the next pasuk. The next pasuk says, and you can find it in note 22. Hashem says, you will be utterly destroyed quickly from the land. So they use the words vinoshantem. Vinoshantem, and you become old. That word, the Gemara wants to say, in Gematria is 852. Right? To make the gematria, they show you how to make the gematria in note 22 towards the end. Right? It turns out to be 852, and they're telling us that Hashem exiled us 2 years earlier than 852. He exiled us at 850 instead of 852. And this means from the time we came into Eretz Yisrael. So 850 years after we walked into Eretz Yisrael, we were kicked out, and not at 852. And this was a chesed. This was a tzedakah that Hashem did. Why? Because it says, if you were there, if you were there 852 years, then what? Hashem was going to destroy you quickly from the land, utterly destroy, completely destroy. That's only if you're there 852 years. So what did Hashem do? Hashem kicked us out at 850 years. This way, we would not get utterly destroyed. We wouldn't be completely destroyed. That's why it was 850 and not 852. Now, how do you get to 850 and 852? How do you get to all these numbers? So Rashi, and it's in note 23 as well, he gives us the mathematics. Okay, so we know Shlomo Melech built the first temple 480 years after we left from Mitzrayim. Okay, so you have a little diagram there. So you have Exodus from Egypt is 2448. 40 years later, we end up in Eretz Yisrael, so it's 2488. Shlomo Melech is building, right? So 480 years after leaving Mitzrayim. So if you add 480 to 2448, it ends at the 2928. That's when the first temple was built. And we know that Shlomo Melech's temple lasted for 410 years. So that gets us to 3338. And now if you take from 2488 to 3338, turns out to be 850 years, because we had made the temple stood for 410 years. So 890 years total from leaving Mitzrayim to the destruction of the temple, 890 years. Take away 40 years from in the midbar, and you have 850. That's how you get to your mathematics. So we left at 850 and not 852. Amravacha Bar Yaakov Shmamina Mehera de Mari Alma Timone Mea v'Chamshin v'Tartin Hayu. You should know here the fact that Hashem says He's going to destroy us, and He says quickly once we walk into the land, and it means 852 years. See, by Hashem, the word quick is 852 years. So if you think you're in Galut for 2,000 years, no, for Hashem, that's really quick, because one quick is 852. This is two quicks, whatever. It's for Hashem, years is considered, 1,000 years is considered like one day, right? I think we have a Hilm that says that. So it's very short period of time. Now, the question they all ask on this is, okay, 852, you didn't want us to get to, right? Because then it would be Vinoshantem, and you'd be utterly destroyed quickly. But so exile us in 851. Why not exile us, give us Galut in 851 years? Why is it be 850, right? You said it can't get to 852. So why can't it be 851? So this is also in the note 23, right before the chart, in the brackets over there. So God exiled in 2 years before the deadline rather than one, because by the rules of Gematria, valuation of the words through calculated numerical value, a discrepancy of one is insignificant, right? Because sometimes we say the word itself is considered as one, right? So thus, if there would have been 1 year of the deadline, it still would have been considered, the prophecy of utter destruction would have been considered to have come true. So, right, because sometimes when you're off in Gematria by one, they say that's fine. So you don't want to be at 851, because that's off by one. You got to be at 850 and not 851, not 852. Okay? So far, so good. Okay, now we're going to come to some interesting Gemara. Gemara says, Lefikach, therefore, it's going back in the Mishnah. The Mishnah said, Hashem made one Adam Arishon. He didn't make 10 Adam Arishons. How do you think about it? Probably made 10 cows, 20 cows, whatever it was. Didn't all start with one. Made a bunch of birds, a bunch of this, a bunch of that. How come by mankind, only one? Adim Yichidi Nivra. Upnema, and why? Shlo Yitzukim Oimrim. We don't want the Tzedukim to say, the Apikosim to say, Harbe Rishiyut Shemayim. There are many Hashems in Shemayim. And every Hashem made their own man. You know, if there were 10 men, they would say, yeah, and that's why this one has this Avodah and that's one has this one Avodah Zarah. Because there's 10 different gods that made 10 different men. So we don't want that to say. So therefore, one Adam Hanishon. Davar Acher, another reason, this is very important for the young generation. If now tzaddikim and pnei rishayim, because of the righteous and because of the rishayim. Shlo ayu tzaddikim oimrim anu b'nei tzaddik. Tzaddikim shouldn't say, you know why we were tzaddikim? Because our Adam Rishon was a tzaddik. And the rishayim would say, rishayim anu b'nei rasha. Why? You know why we were rishayim? Because our Adam Rishon was a rasha. So we each come from our lineage. The tzaddik comes from the right, and it's not my fault. I can't choose between good or bad. I am the product of my ancestors. So in order for no one to say that, and rather to say the be a tzaddik of Russia is in your hands. So that's why there was one Adam Marish. Dara Acher, another reason. Because of families. We don't want families to fight with one another. You know, I imagine someone would say, you come from that Adam Rishon. That was no shoot Adam Rishon. This one, Brasha. I don't want, we come from the best. We don't, intermarry, we don't talk, we don't look. There's that. You don't want anyone to think like that. The Gemara says, and what about now? Shenivra Yachid Mitragot. Now we're all from one Adam Rishon, and still people don't want anything to do with that family or do anything with this family, and they're still in family feuds, right? And Nivru Shnayim. Now imagine there were two Adam Rishons. How much worse the fighting would be, right? Now that we all come to the Rishon and still family feuds. Imagine if there were two Adam Rishons, or three or four, whatever, how many more family feuds there would be. Davar Achar, another reason. Because of robbers and extortionists. Why? The reason here they're saying is the different reflection on how to understand this, but basically sometimes you're talking about decent robbers, right? Decent robbers or thieves. I'm going to steal from someone who I really don't know. Someone who I can't feel his pain. I don't know them. Whatever. There's some guy I don't know them. I'll go and I'll steal. It's easier to steal and do things to people that you don't know. So when it comes to family, I'll try to stay away from that. Although that's not, I don't know if that's still true today. I mean, I've been told stories where Chatan and Kala, right, Domot Kilin, they before they're getting married, they fill up their apartment with all their stuff. And like the night or 2 nights before their wedding, all of a sudden someone breaks in and steals all their things. And, and it's most likely a family member or a friend, sometimes to feed a drug addiction or whatever. And they help them fill up the house. They helped them bring in the furniture or whatever. And then they knew the code or whatever. They knew where the key was, and they came in. And unfortunately, I heard more than 2 or 3 stories like this in the past years. So I mean, that's what the Gemara says. Now there's one on the Rishon, and still people steal from each other. If there were 2 on the Rishons, how many more people would steal? They would say, I can steal from that guy because it's not my family. He's like from a different Adam Rishon. He's a different human. We have nothing to do with him, right? So we can steal from them. So if now people are still stealing and they're all from one Adam Rishon, how much more? Oh, okay, that's one way to learn. Well, we're going to see the other way to learn a little later on when it comes to something else. Well, another reason. Now, Adam Rishon, Hashem created him as one to tell us the greatness of Hashem. To tell us the greatness of Hashem. If a person is making coins, right, and he's making coins, what does he do? He makes a mold and he puts in the metal, the liquid metal, and or whatever. He takes the hard metal and he makes a stamp into it, and each coin looks very similar to the other coin. And this way, everyone knows what the coin is worth. Everyone knows what it looks like. But when a coin maker makes coins, All the coins look pretty much the same. Chun Daimin Zelazah. Awal Kadosh Baruch Hu Toveam Kol Adam Chotmosh Adam Rishon. All the people in the world come from Adam Rishon. They all come from one mold, one set of DNA, one set of genetics. And not a single one of them looks like their friend. Meaning we all come from the same DNA, the same Adam Rishon. And everybody looks somewhat different. And people have certain similarities, but everybody's different. At the end of the day, everybody is different. Someone said, what about identical twins? Okay, even identical twins, the parents usually can separate, can tell little differences in between them. It's much harder to tell differences in between them, that's for sure, because they're identical. That's why they're called identical twins. But most people, there is so much difference in between them. I mean, when I read this Gemara, it reminds me of a picture I once saw from the Guinness World Book of Records, where they had like the tallest person and the shortest person in the world. Like it was this African man who was like 8 feet tall, and they had this African woman who was like a foot and a half or 2 feet tall, whatever it was, 3 feet tall. Like you had this really tall man, and you had this really short woman, and it's like these are all from Amarishan, right? This is all the same DNA, which is amazing, right? Shneimar tithapech kechomer chotam v'yitatzevu kimo lebush. As it says, how you know Hashem has a mold? Because it says Hashem, the human mold, dies at death, and it comes clay, and then the dead will stand up as a garment. And once Chiyat HaMetim will come, the body will be like a piece of clothes that you'll go back into. And it says the word chotam, mold, for humans. So they all come from the same mold. Now, why is it that everybody has to look differently? Why can't we look the same? Wouldn't it be so much nicer if everybody looked the same? You know, more uniform, more nice. That's one of the things that dictators love. Everyone should look the same, act the same, be the same. But how come Hashem made it not that way? Why everyone should be different? So Gemara is interesting. Shlo yera adam dira na'a, the isha na'a, v'yomer shli. Oh, you know what happened? Imagine me and Ephraim look exactly the same. So Ephraim builds a big building and a big business, and he has lots of money coming in. And then I walk over and I look exactly like him. And I say, that's mine. That's not his, that's mine. And you can't disprove it because we look exactly the same. Or someone is married to a very beautiful wife, and I walk by her and I say, that's not his wife, that's my wife. It was exactly the same, so it's my wife now, right? And the person can do that. It's mine. And the Mepharshim asks, 1 second, you just told me all the humans look alike. So wouldn't all the women look alike? So how can he say that this is a Isha Na, beautiful woman? All women look exactly the same. So one understanding is that yes, when it means looking exactly the same, means everybody had the same physical features, but their color of their skin might be a little different. Their complexion, and that one complexion can look more beautiful than another. But most Mepharshim are under the opinion when it says beautiful, it means her ma'asim, her acts, her deeds. And you know, she's a very nice woman. She's doing very nice things, and I say, "Oh, that's my wife. That's not his wife." So therefore, Hashem made everybody look different. Shneimar, v'yimanam mirashaim oram uzroa rama tishaber, and it will be withered from the wicked. Their light and their high arm will be broken. So Hashem did this on purpose, so that the Rishaim cannot come and steal people's wives and people's stuff and say, "Oh, that's me." Think about it for a moment. How this applies today. This is when people's identity gets stolen, right? People's identity gets stolen. The digital identity, their social security, their banks, and now you have to go prove that I'm me and she's she, and he's he, and nobody knows who's who, and they have to go and prove everything. It's very hard. When I read this Gemara, this is what I see, and this is true. People coming in, taking over someone's identity, and saying I'm that person, which is a very, very, very difficult thing to deal with. Tanya, it was torn in Braita. Reb Meir said, everybody's different from someone else in 3 ways. What are the 3 ways? The call, in the voice, the mar'eh, in how they look, uvda'at, and in their thinking. Okay, now the Bavli is going to have it one way. Your Shalmi says it a different way. We're in the Bavli. We'll deal with the Bavli just to know which group is it. Vikol Umare, Umare Udas, whatever. We're just going to learn the way we have it here. Vikol Umare Mishum Ereva. Voice and appearance is because of Ereva, right? At night, the way you identify when you don't have lights, right? You identify your spouse via the voice. You know her voice. She knows your voice. You know who you are. Mare, during the daylight, you can see each other's appearances and you know who's who, right? You'll know that she knows who you are. You know who she is because of Erva Koi Uvmare. Uvidat, when it comes to thoughts are different. Right? This is similar to what we said before. So you want everyone's knowledge to be different. It will make less stealing in the world. How to understand this? Okay. If me and you think differently, then I will put my cash or my belongings somewhere different than where you would put it. Okay. So when a robber walks in to my house, Hashem, and he wants to find my gold and silver, he doesn't know where to look because me and him think differently. Now there are some professional people, like mentalists, who know what you're thinking. Somehow they know what you're thinking. They know where you put things. They know, they have some intuition to know how other people think and how other people act. And I think the reason is a lot of people don't have different thoughts anymore, right? When you're bombarded with media, you're bombarded with news, television, movies, radio programs that the state, especially the government, puts out. There's a lot of things they want you to think of. They want you to believe in. And now that starts changing people's thoughts, right? This is in corporate America, this is very important, right? You want everyone to feel that they need a Tesla. Everyone needs to get a new car, right? Because you want to make money. So you have to start feeding people these thoughts that they need a new car. This way they're going to buy a car. You need to feed everybody a thought. You want to get this cereal and this brand. This way everyone will buy it. So today's people's dots are not really that different in that sense. People who are influenced by media, influenced by government, they lose in their dot. They don't have individual thought. I mean, just look around the world, ask people questions. You'll see everybody's answering the same exact answer because that's what they're being taught. That's what they're being taught to say and taught to think. So it seems in the Gemara, we shouldn't have any similar thoughts. We're really supposed to have different thoughts. And this way, people can't steal from us, right? There are professional robbers, thefts, thieves that know how to break a person's passcode. Has some information about them and they can figure out how to break it. Because people are not using their own brains. They're just following some sort of program. So that's why you need to have different dots. If you think differently, then the robber can't steal from you. He's not going to be able to think on the same wavelength as you. Just one little mention is there's this famous Israeli mentalist, Lior Sukard or something like that. His name is. So he has a TED talk where he talks about how he does mental. He doesn't talk how he does it. He mentions some things and what he uses. And one of the things he says there, he says that throughout my show, I'm feeding you information that you're going to end up choosing things, and that's how I know what you're going to choose. Like he's providing you with information, and then you end up choosing what he wants you to choose, and because of the way. And it's very subtle. And he's someone who knows how to manipulate the mind. Obviously, we're talking about most people. People with stronger minds will probably be able to withstand him. He doesn't choose every person, but just something to think about. Okay, Tana Rabbana. Adam Nevra Erev Shabbat. Hashem made Adam Rishon on Friday, right? Why? Shlo Yud Tzedukim. Why? Remember, so the Tzedukim, the Apikoros, and they shouldn't say Shutaf Hayel Kodesh Baruch Hu Ma'aseh Bereshit, that Hashem needed Adam Rishon to be a partner in creating the world. Hashem couldn't do it alone, so He made man, and the man helped him. We don't want people to say that. Davar Achar Shem Tazuch Da'ato Alav Omer Lo Yetush Kodmecha B'Ma'aseh Bereshit. The person thinks, I'm so special, I'm so good. They say, hello, you were made last. The mosquito was made before you. It's more important than you. Okay. Kidei, another reason, what achar? Kidei shi kanes la mitzvah miyad. We want, Hashem wants Adam Rishon to go straight into the mitzvah of Shabbat. We didn't want Adam Rishon to be made on Sunday and then wait around the whole week for Shabbat. No, come Friday morning, you are ready to be made, so you'll be able to get ready for Shabbat and go into Shabbat. Davar achar, another reason, Kidei shi kanes la tzudat miyad. You know why? Hashem didn't want Adam Rishon to come into an empty world. Hashem wanted the reason for creation to come into a world that's already prepared. Mashal Melech Basar Adam, similar to a mashal of a Basar Adam. That what? Shabana, Paltirin, the Shichlolin, the Hitkin Suudah. First, he builds a palace, he decorates it, prepares the meal. And then he brings in the guests. That's the way you bring in the guests. Adam Rishon is the guest of the world. So you prepare everything for Adam Rishon, and then you bring him in. Shnema Chochmot Benanta Beita. Wisdom built a house. Chatzva Amadea Shiva. She built out 7 pillars. Tavcha Tifcha Mascha Yeda. Prepare the meat. Prepare the wine. Urcha Shulchana. Prepare the table. Shalchana Artea Tikra. Cold for the maidens. Agape Merome Karet. Standing on top of the city. This is from Mishlei. So Gemara is going to explain it to explain this teaching that you just said. Chachma Banta Baita. Wisdom built her house. This is the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu acts. Shabar is kula b'chachma. He created the whole world b'chachma. Chatzah b'dei Shiva. Then he built 7 days. Elo Shiva Yemei Bereshit, the first 7 days of the world. That was the seas, that's the rivers, that's the land, that's everything that's needed in the world. Then he calls for the maidens. That refers to Adam v'Chava. So Hashem prepares the world and then calls Adam v'Chava into it. Now, it says, Al Gepei Meromei Karet. They were standing on top of the city. Rabbi Bar Chana Rami, Ketib Al Gepei. Here it says that they were either soaring, flying, or standing on top of the city. But later in Mishlei, it says that Al Kisei, Adam Rishon was sitting on a chair. So which one is it? Where it says Betchila Al Gape. First, when before the Avidah, they were so spiritual that they were soaring on top of the earth. Al Kisei. But in the end, when they sinned, they ended up sitting on earth. They became so earthly that they can no longer soar over the skies. They're now in the not more earthly. Okay, the Braita continues. Further on in that parak in Mishlei, the next pasuk it says, whoever is simple, let him turn to the side. He who lacks understanding, she told him. What's this pasuk talking about? Who gave Adam Rishon to eat from the tree? Isha Amrulai. They said the woman gave. The woman is missing wisdom. Somewhere else it says a adulterer, someone who is with a married woman with another married woman with another man, is considered lacking knowledge. And here it also says chaser lev. So we know it means the woman gave the man to eat the tree from the Eitz Hadaah. Tanya was told in Braita, they collected all the dust from the world to make Adam Rishon. Says your eyes beheld my unshaped form. When Hashem was creating Adam Rishon, he was unshaped yet. And Hashem's eyes on the whole world. Since Hashem's eyes on the whole world, and then it says his eyes are on Adam Rishon, so it means he took the dust from everywhere to make Adam Rishon. One of the reasons for that is because Adam Rishon can only live in places where he is made from, right? Wherever the earth that was used to make him, that's where he can live. That's why Hashem had to take earth from everywhere. That's how you can have people living in Siberia or in New York City this past Shabbat, yesterday. You can have people living here. It gets so cold. But if Adam Rishon didn't live in such places, you would not be able to live there. It wasn't made from such places. Amr of Oishia Mishmei the Rab. Rosh said the name of Rab.
Question.
Yeah.
The weather was the weather changed after the Mabur though. Up until that time, I've heard of that concept, but the weather only changed into 4 seasons. Right.
Okay. I hear what you're saying, but it's possible to say it's possible to say that those lands already existed, able to exist under those conditions. Although those conditions weren't there yet, they already had the ability to be there, even during the change. Meaning, like within it existed the inherent qualities to survive cold, right, in those lands. Even though
Eventually.
with the Mabul, there was no reason for it to do, but the inherent quality was there, and therefore the Rishon was still there. That's a possible answer. It's just a regular achas, right? I'm Rav Moshe Rishon the Rav. I'm Rishon. Gufa b'Bavel. Okay, this is not to be taken literally. Almost only person say this is not taken literally, but it says his body was from Bavel, right? And the reason because Bavel is you have Talmud Bavli. It's a very smart place, right? Rosh Eretz Yisrael, and his Rosh from Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael, we know the ear in Eretz Yisrael is very gives you a lot of wisdom, right? You have Talmud Yerushalmi, Vayevarav Mishar Artzod, and his Avarim were from other lands. Now I don't know why the Gemara specifically picks Agbotav. What about his buttocks? Where does buttocks come from? So Ravacha Akra de Agma came from a place called Akra de Agma. And Rashi says it's an extremely low-lying area in Babel. And the reason why it's so low, it seems to be because Hashem took from it to make his butt. Okay, I'm going to leave it as that. I don't have any other explanation of that. Rabbi Yochanan Bar Chanina. Rabbi Yochanan Bar Chanina said, there were 12 days in the day, 12 hours in that day that Adam Rishon was created. In the first hour of the day, Hashem collected the dust. On the second hour, Hashem made a shapeless mass. In the third hour, Hashem stretched out his limbs. In the fourth hour, Hashem put in his neshama. In the fifth hour of the day, Adam Rishon is standing up. Okay, so if we're starting at 6 o'clock in the morning, it's now 11 o'clock. Adam Rishon is now ready to go. Shishit Kara Shemot. At 12 o'clock, Adam Rishon is giving out names to all the animals, right, to everything in the world. Shivi'it Nizdagavel Lo Chava. In the seventh hour, Hashem gave him Chava. So now he's married in the seventh hour. He finished naming everything. Now he gets a wife. Shminit Alu, interesting, it's the eighth hour. Shminit Alu Limita, Shinayim, Ve'edu Arba. In the eighth hour, the two of them went on a bed, and four of them came out. Right? So you have Adam and Chava, and either it was Cain and his twin sister, or it was Cain and Hevel. So anyway, they had two kids, and they so you see they conceived and gave birth at the same moment, right? All in the same hour. So you didn't have to go through 9 months of pregnancy, right? You want children, instant children. Tishit, now in the ninth hour after they have kids, now they're told, don't eat from that Eitz Hadat, from the tree of knowledge. And what happens? We're in the 10th hour, right? This is an hour after they're told not to do it. They already eat from it. In the 11th hour, Nidon. In the 11th hour, they are judged. In the 12th hour, they're kicked out of Gan Eden. Shenemar Adam Bikar Bal Yolin. The man does not remain overnight in a state of glory, meaning most people fall from their heights immediately. You know, you can reach a certain madriga. You know, you learned Torah 12 hours today, let's say. And then the next minute he comes home and he drops completely. He does an Avera, he fights with his wife, he watches something he shouldn't look at, and he just completely falls. Adam Bikar Bal Yal. It's very hard for a man to stay in a state of glory. So here, Adam Rishon, first day, right? And he had a very, very eventful day. I mean, he named, he got married, he had kids, and made an Avera all on the same day. Amar Rabbi Bar Chama. Again, these are midrashim. These are
so that's less than 6 hours, because if his soul was poured into him at the 4th hour, and he sinned by the 10th hour.
Yeah, jam-packed 6 hours.
Yeah. Wow.
You can get a lot done in 6 hours. You can go to the highest heights and the lowest lows in 6 hours. Again, there are some midrashim that say a little differently, that he wasn't kicked out of Gan Eden until after Shabbos, and he was there. There's again, these are midrashim, these are agalatas. They're harder to understand than halachic gemaras, like Rav Hyman or Shiva and Torah V'dat. Whenever he came to agalata gemaras, he skipped them in the shir. He learned them on his own, but he didn't learn them in shir to teach them. He said because he says, I don't understand them. I don't know what to tell you about them. When it comes to halacha, we can try to figure out the halacha and we can come to a halachic decision. When it comes to Agadata, there's so much stories here, so much midrashim. The Chachamim were putting in lessons here, but what lesson to learn? How to understand these midrashim? They're very hard. So I'm trying to take out the most, trying to take out at least one lesson from each Gemara, something that we can go away with. Ain't chaya ra'a shaletet ba'adam. You should know, no wild beast can do anything to a man, unless man looks like a behemoth. Shenemar nimshal kabehemot nidmo. Humanity is ruled when they appear like animals. When animals can only rule over us when we appear like animals. Like a famous story with Daniel. Daniel's thrown into a lion's den. No one touches him. Daniel's Daniel, right? He's a chayza. He can see visions. He's a very holy man. And later on in history, a couple hundred years ago, we had the Orach Chaim HaKadosh. Right, the Orach Chaim HaKadosh. He's a jeweler. The Sultan wants him to make a piece of jewelry. He says, "I'm sorry, I can't do it right now. I finished making my money for the week. I am preparing for Shabbat. I'm learning Torah. I can't do it." The Sultan's upset with him, throws him into the lions. Then everyone thinks he's about to die, and he comes out walking out. He's just fine, right? Orach Chaim HaKadosh. That's why he's called Orach Chaim HaKadosh. He's more of a human than an animal. The animals have no dominion over him. Okay, Amr Yehuda Amarav, right? Because it's a simon. Shabbos life Arami Siman. Amr Yehuda Amarav. Shashakash Baruch Hu Levrot Adam. Hashem wanted to create man. Barakat Achat Shel Malchei Hashar. He made a group of angels. So then Hashem says to him, shall we make man? The angel said to Hashem, what will man do in the world? What would he do? He'll do good deeds, and some men will do bad deeds. They said to Hashem, what's man that you should remember him? And what is the son of a mortal man that you should be mindful of him? Basically, no, right? Don't create them. They're worthless. They're going to make bad things. Don't do it. So what did Hashem do? He opened up his small finger and he burnt them all. Okay, so he destroyed a whole group of angels. Then he made a second angel. And they said the exact same thing, the second group of angels. And he destroyed them too. Now he made the third one. I guess they already figured out that two groups of angels were destroyed. So they said, the first ones who said something, what did it help? The first two, what did it help? Therefore, it's whatever you want to do. It's your world. Do whatever you want. Do whatever you want. So basically, they didn't say yes, make men. They just said they remained part of it. There was Switzerland. They said we're not taking sides. You want to do it, it's your world. Do what you want. We're not advocating one way or the other. What happens now? Now the Dor HaMabel comes, right? Terrible people. Everyone's bad. Rak kol hayom. And Dor HaFlaga, they saw the Mabel and they're still going bad. Shema saying Mukukalin, their deeds are bad. The angels now, the third group of angels says to Hashem, didn't the first two groups of angels say properly in front of you that men are worthless? They're terrible. Why did you make them? Hashem said, but we say, or some people say after Shacharit, after Elenu, which is, I am he until my old age, I will bear him. Even when I'm old, Hashem says, I will tolerate the sins of men. So it seems to be Hashem has a special love for man. That
until who is old? Because Hashem doesn't have any.
Hashem is saying until
the human being gets old?
No, Hashem's saying it about himself. Even though Hashem never gets old, but he's saying that I'm willing to tolerate men forever. With their now, you think about it. In the heavens, they don't want men. They're saying they're not spiritual enough. Mankind is not worth it. But Hashem seems to have a special love for us where he says, I'll tolerate them, no matter what they do. Somehow, he continues to tolerate us. Amr Yehuda Amarav. Adam Rishon Mitzayfa Olam at Tzayfa Haya. Adam Rishon, he reached from one end of the universe to the other end. Shenemar as it says, "Lemin hayom asher bara Elohim adam al haaretz u'mitzeh hashemayim v'kitzeh hashemayim." Since the day that Hashem created man and earth from one end of heaven to the other end, Adam Rishon was able to be from one end to the other end. When he made a sin, Hashem put his hand on him and made him smaller. Back and front you for me, it says, and then Hashem placed his hand on him. When Hashem placed his hand on Adam, he made him smaller. Right? Rabbi Elazar said, Adam Rishon bin haaretz adar kiyohaya. He's from the ground all the way to the Shemayim he reached. Okay, both of these statements are true. Either they're both equal, or they're all metaphorical. They're meaning something else. That he means he had a vast knowledge of the universe that no one else ever had, or whatever it means. Anyway, he's from the ground up. You can see everything. He knows everything. Once he made a sin, Hashem put his hand on him and made him smaller. Gemara says, you're telling me he was wide from one end to the other, and now you're telling us from the earth to the heaven. Which one is it? Gemara says, it's actually one measurement from the earth up, and from one end of the universe to the other end of the universe is the same measurement. Exactly what does Midrashim mean? Many understandings. It means that Adam Rishon had a certain knowledge of the whole universe. He understood the heavenly matters, the earthly matters. He knew everything. And then when he sinned, he lost that ability. The Amri Yehuda Amar Rav Adam Rishon Beloshin Arami Siper. Adam Rishon spoke Aramaic, which is really interesting because we always are under the impression that Adam Rishon was Lashon HaKodesh, right? Now he didn't know Lashon HaKodesh, but it seems he also knew Aramaic. Aramaic has some sort of spiritual qualities on it. Shenemar, it says, "V'li ma yakaru re'echa el." He says, "Re'echa," which means Rayonecha, your thoughts. The pasuk says about Adam Rishon that Adam Rishon said, "Hashem, your thoughts are way beyond me. I can't understand them." When did he say this? Behind them, Rish Lakish. This is what Rish Lakish said. My Sefer told out Adam. It says in Bereshit, this is the book of the children of Adam. What does this mean? Melamed Shaharoh HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That Hashem showed Adam Rishon, Dor Dor v'Dor Shav, all the teachers of every generation. Dor Dor v'Chachamav, every generation and its wise people. Kivan Shehegiel Dor Shor Kiva. When he came to Rabbi Akiva's generation, Samach v'Torato. He was so happy with the Torah that Rabbi Akiva would teach. But he was saddened over his death. He was very sad how Rabbi Akiva would die. Right? Rabbi Akiva had iron combs that were used to take his flesh off his body. So Adam said at that time, and to me, your thoughts are way beyond. Hashem, I don't understand why you did this. Obviously, you have more thoughts than I can ever understand. And now we come to this is the last section of the Gemara we're going to deal with, but we have to look at some Mefarshim, so we do have a few minutes, we'll be able to figure this out. Very, very strange Gemara now. Gemara says, Adam Rishon min haya. Adam Rishon was an apikoros. How do we know this? Shenemar. It says, Vayikra Hashem Elokim el ha'adam v'yomer lo ayekom. He says to Adam Rishon, where are you? Az neteli becha, you left Hashem. You're not bikaros. Rabbi Yitzchak says, Moshech ba'orla tohaya. He made him look as if he didn't have a brit milah. Kitev hacha vehema ka'adam averu brit. They were like Adam who made against his brit. Uchtiv hatam et de briti hafar. They went against the brit milah. So somewhere Adam Rishon, he had a brit milah, whether Hashem gave him brit milah or he gave himself a brit milah, and then he went ahead and make it look as if he did not have a brit milah, similar to what the Hellenists did during the times of Hanukkah. Again, no idea what this means. Can we really say this about Adam Rishon? Rav Nachman says, Kofer be'ikar haya. He did not believe in Hashem anymore. Kitziv hacha averu brit. Says he went against the Brit. Uchtiv hatam v'amru al she'ezu brit Hashem Elohayim. And they went against the Torah. Went against the Brit of the Torah. So you see, Adam Rishon went against the Brit. Adam Rishon went against which Brit? The Brit of Torah. Adam Rishon went against believing in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He's Kofer be'ikar haya. So I don't want to leave the Gemara on such a bad thought. So the first thing to know, so I'm going to read to you the Masifta. I'm just going to read a few quick inyonim here. It corresponds to Gemara. Was he really a min? Was he really such a bad guy? Rabbeinu Chananel writes, he says, Rabbeinu Chananel says, you're reading the Gemara wrong. The Gemara doesn't say this is what the rabbi said. Rather, the Gemara should be read that this is what the Apikarsim said, that Adam was like them. But Adam was an Apikarsim. The Apikarsim were saying this. Not that Rabbi Nachman was saying this, and not Rabbi Yitzchak was saying this, not Rabbi Huda was saying this. Rather, Apikarsim were saying this to these rabbis, and the rabbis were saying what the Apikarsim was saying. However, the Yad Ramah says that can't be. Rabbi Chanal's pshat is not good, because why would an Apikar say, oh, Hashem was asking the Adam, Ayeka, where are you? Because you went away from Hashem. That's why you're an Apikar. So Apikar is saying that we went away from Hashem. That's not a proof that they're an Apikars, right? Apikars want to say that there is no Hashem or whatever, whatever they're trying to prove. They're not going to use the pasuk Ayeka to prove that, because that means they're bad and they went away. So that's what the Yad Ramah says. Rashi Yad Ramah says this is literal. This is literal. Really, Adam Rishon was a min at some point. He did tshuva, whatever, but he was a min. He was an apikaris. He take away his brit. He didn't believe in the Torah. Whatever this means. However, the Torah Chaim says the kavanah of the Gemara is that the time he ate from the tree, what was he? Was he a min? Was he a kafir be'ikr? Was he like someone who closes hides his brit? Which degree, which level was he at the time that he did the Eitz Hadah? The Ben Yada says, you know what it means, this Gemara? This is Ben Ish Chai, right? Which pigam did he make in his neshama? When he made the sin, similar idea. Which pigam, which bad thing happened to his neshama? Was it equal to being like an apikaris? Was it equal to like being someone who hides his brit? Or was it equal to someone who doesn't believe in Hashem? How bad was it? How bad was it? Okay, so it's someone in the shul. There was a guy who said, I like your Rabbeinu Chanal's pshat the best, even though you had a question on it, because it makes Adam Rishon a good guy, which we want, and we should believe. However, I think the Ben Yad, the Torah Chaim have a good pshat that during the time of his sin, or right after his sin, what happened to his neshama? What degree of a stain happened to his neshama based on that Avedah? And just to end off with the next piece, just to read the next few words of the Gemara, that I think is very important. I think I lost where I was. Here we are. Tanan Hatam, Eliezer, Aimer, have a shakad lumotara. Know Torah very well. But da mashitasher la'apikaris. So you should be knowing what to answer in apikaris. Okay? Someone comes around and says, Amar Rishon was a bad guy, right? Apikaris. You have to know what to answer. Not just for an apikaris. I once heard from one of my rebbeim, that means you should know what to answer yourself. Chas v'shalom, someone comes to some thoughts of minut, some thoughts of kafir v'ikar, he has to know enough Torah to say, hold on, that thought's not right, because you have this, you have that, you have this, you have that. So it's very important. If you want, I can send you a link. Rebelsky has a group, 42 shiurim on da mashitasha lapikaris. Know what to answer in apikaris. Each year is about 20 minutes. He deals with evolution, he deals with dinosaurs, he deals with other stuff, and he explains it all there Hatira, and this way you'll know what to answer yourself and others. Something came up. All right, we're out of time. Thank you for coming. Shavua Tov, Chanukah Sameach, Chodesh Tov.
Do you want to? Yeah.
Put off recording.